Joining me now in studio to discuss this issue further is Archbishop Anthony Muheria. Thanks so much for joining us on NTV Weekend Edition.
Welcome.
Okay. Do you admit, Archbishop, that indeed the church, the place of worship, is corrupt?
I think that would be a very wide berth of an accusation. I think what has happened is, as we were there in Subukia, we have shown the need of mercy, of repentance, of recovery of the sacred space. That I think is very clear. But I think the Subukia declaration that we made yesterday has put out the touchlines, the lines within which we should operate as church, and especially giving a highlight about that it's not just the money. Corruption is wider than money. Corruption is the rot of the heart that we really need to cure from within. So it's the significance of the prophetic gesture, the significance of the gesture of repentance, but also a big call upon the personal conscience. Is not ours is not to do the policeman. Ours is to call and to tug in the hearts of the people and tell them, you got to change. This is sin, this is evil. We've got to change Kenya.
How has the church gotten to where we are today? This is a place of moral high ground. Has the church sold its soul to the devil?
I would say again is a bit of an extreme. In fact, this church is God's voice, as we all know. What has happened is the church has constantly said in all our declaration, and it's important to say when we speak about the church, I'm only qualified to speak about the Catholic Church, yes. Really, that we have always been saying in our statements, clearly we've gone dead on the fight of corruption. However, it's been more about pointing and judicial systems. Right now what we are saying is no longer just about pointing who is corrupt. It's about looking back at myself, at yourself, at all of us and saying we've got to, in conscience, awaken the responsibility we have to bring right in. It is true the ground in society has been lost very much to the devil, as you say, or to evil, and that's the rot that has gotten to us. Ours is to try to cure it.
But in your view, how have we gotten here? What's happened? What has gone wrong?
I think two things come to mind. One, we've got into a culture of greed. We have slowly grown into giving people, whereas a long time we were speaking about education, be educated. Now it's about status, it's about what you have, it's about what you show off. And this greed is shown in many ways, including the lotteries that we got, people getting rich at short notice, or trying to hope that they can get rich in whichever means. That is one of the things. Second is that our conscience has been deadened and has slowly been numbed. I think we've seen it as a constant decline, but right now we can say the last few years have been a serious, very serious rot that has not gone up to the head, as in the leadership, but has also gone to the feet, that is we who are led.
Right.
So ours is to starve this monster that has threatened to swallow not only Kenya, but each and every one of us, including our children.
And one way the Catholic Church has tried to do this now is by saying no to contributions, or that contributions have to be done via mobile money or via a cheque. But that raises the question, at the end of the day, whether it's cash, cheque or mobile money, it is still a contribution. So what is the difference?
I think two things again come there. Money can come from any source, and there is no way you can know whether the source is a fair source or a soiled source. And as I said some years ago here, we don't have pH tester to see is this money dirty or not. However, even following the modern ways, the cash trail, the money trail, the source of the trail is easier when it comes through the banks, through M-Pesa, through other ways, through check. When it is cash, as we always know, you don't know exactly what the source is. So it's a way of containing the ill. We're not saying we're solving it. We're just making it bringing back a bit more integrity.
So are you saying that the church is still going to accept donations? It's just putting a tab on the manner in which those donations come through?
That is one step, which is the manner that the donations are going to come through. But certainly any Christian, any person who wants to make donations and rightly does so, would do so, but always with a clear mode of doing so, including even, as we said, in that Subukia declaration, the manner of writing this letter, and even acknowledging that letter. So as you know, the church contributions and donations is not only donations, it's contributions,
right,
is something that it has a right to. And secondly, it's something that the Christians has a right to donate.
And who's going to keep a check on this mode of which the money gets to the church? Who's responsible for that?
Let's say that the church itself has its own organization, just as we know, and we have bank accounts. Most of our institutions are audited already. So it's not like it's going to be something tremendously new. It's only that the money coming in, we'll try to keep it as little cash transaction as possible. I think this is something that is also in the world over, something.
So it's the church themselves that are going to keep tabs on this?
Of course, because it's our.
Nobody external?
Whenever there will be a need, especially, you see there are various institutions, there's the church itself. The church should be as well the arbitrator in the sense of looking after its own affairs. And there are ways, because the church is not only, the Catholic Church, as we're saying, is not only the diocese, it's much wider. So there are ways of keeping that up, of overseeing, oversight between one diocese and another. But I think the main issue here is to say, other institutions that we do own, other contributions for schools or hospitals are audited already by external auditors who are certified. But here we're speaking more about the church space, and that is why the prophetic sign was also about gaining church space, gaining holy ground, and making sure that there is no mix of what is said that is about worship and what is about helping the people reach God, and what is about personality and about giving.
Well, on that point of personalities, politicians, of course, use the pulpit for politics. The church has said this needs to stop. But of course, you recall not so long ago, two MPs, that's Ndindi Nyoro and Maina Kamanda, in a Muranga church. We'll play those pictures in just a moment. It was rather embarrassing for them and for the church. What's your comment on that?
I think it's an understatement. Rather embarrassing is an understatement. I think all of us must realize, and that's what we're saying, before God, we are all equal. There is no big or low. And all of us must leave the dignity of the place. My comment is always what, again, the bishop in that occasion said, that obviously is very embarrassing, but above all is a great dishonor to God, not only to the people who are there. However, the issue which now the church has come in the Subukia Declaration is to say, we will not allow politicians to talk in the church. There will be, it's not only politicians, there will be no other speeches in our churches that have any other end than that of directing people to worship and God. And that means we want to recover. And that's why the removal of the shoes of the bishops in that prophetic sign was quite powerful. It is like Moses. We're saying, this place is sacred. Let's all respect it, including us bishops when we speak from there. So I think it's not just pointing out to the wrongdoers, it's a calling to a conscience, including ourselves bishops and including others.
But just today, the MP of Mathira, that's Rigathi Gachagua, spoke and used the pulpit for politics. So what's your comment on that, and really what action is the church going to take on those who defy your new regulations?
I think one issue is to say, yesterday is when we made the Subukia Declaration. The promulgation of this takes time.
So it's not from immediate effect?
We shouldn't expect that the effects will trickle down. As in government or in any organization, things must take time.
Why shouldn't we?
Because we have to pass on that rule down the leadership and institute ways, just as you were asking. How will we ensure this? Because we are not trying to be uncharitable. The politicians are also Christians. They have a right to be in our churches. But we need also to treat our leaders and others, and it's not only the politicians, there are others, to tell them before, this is what the rules are. And in this way we'll be able to have, because the church also has a face of mercy. We are not the police. We are not going to set on them because they come on. We must look for the ways where we tug on their conscience, tug on their heart. And of course the rules are the rules. They will not do so. But I think we are not seeking confrontation. We are seeking, and I'm sure as Christians, those same readers will be happy to understand we're giving God his space.
Well, let's certainly hope so.
I really believe so, because what we witnessed in Subukia has had a tremendous reception, not only from Christians, but also from the very leaders. And I think we shouldn't only focus on one part of that subukia. There were other issues that we said, which is the breaking the chain of corruption, the launch of the Catholic Church anti-corruption.
Okay, and we're getting short of time, but one person that has been criticized for his huge cash donations is the Deputy President, William Ruto, and he came out today just, hours after the church made its declaration, saying that he has nothing to apologize for. What are your views on the criticism that the DP receives and the fact that he continues to donate huge chunks of cash?
I think this is a matter of conscience for you and for me. At times, it's not the amount of cash that you donate, because at times the money that is coming could be money coming from a legitimate source, and sometimes the small money could, God forbid, come from a brothel. So I think we have to not play God, but rather ask the person's conscience, ask the person, what is it? What is driving you? What's your conscience? So I think we as church are very evasive, and I think it is important I even use that word. We do not want to judge the conscience of people, neither those who are alive nor those who are dead. And I think the conscience is God. So in this case, I would rather say everyone who comes to make a contribution must ask himself, first, is this money that God or the church that is worthy of giving? And second, am I doing it for the right intention? If I'm doing it for the wrong intention, it's not about me to condemn. God already condemns that person. So I think let's go to the conscience. And this is the big power driver of this anti-corruption campaign of the Catholic Church, is about we are going through the conscience, awakening of conscience, and making the people take their responsibility.
All right, well, let's certainly hope that it works. But as you say, it may take time to change that mindset.
We have 6 months for the campaign.
All right, so it's something
pray.
That we'll wait and watch and pray for. All right.
Thank you very
well,
much.
Archbishop, thank you so much for joining us and shedding more light on that issue. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, you're welcome.
Joining me in studio, Archbishop Anthony Muheriat, talking about the new regulations that the Catholic Church has come forward with.